Welcome to the Tenant Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, here with my friend, partner, known to many as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, my buddy, Wes Brown.
Todd, how you doing, my friend?
Good.
Oh my God, it's another week.
It's another week. It's another episode. And man, I have been excited for like the last 5 or 6 days about doing this interview tonight. So I don't know how you feel, but I've been on the edge of my seat all afternoon.
I'm stoked. You know, once again, we're back into South Dakota interviewing a couple artists and gallerists and about a special collection that's going on. So yeah, I'm stoked that we're back in, you know, the Great Faces, Great Places state and home of Kristi Noem. And yeah, we'll go for it.
Hey, thank you for joining us. Remember, you can always find out what we're up to via our social media on Instagram at Tenant Podcast and our Tenant Podcast Facebook page. And then be sure to check out our website at tenantpodcast.com. As Wes already mentioned, we have a fantastic episode for you this week. I know that we have captivated you with stories of Wes Brown's exploits, but what you're about to hear is really pretty quite extraordinary, both incredibly tragic and spectacular. Our guests this week are artists and gallerists Greg Geiger and Jay Pond. They own Gallery 613 in Rapid City, South Dakota. We are going to talk about their gallery there in Rapid City, but then, as I alluded just a minute ago, they have quite a story to share about a man named Rodney Bode. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for coming on and spending time with us this evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Todd, Wes.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen. You know, we've talked a few times past few months, and I was really excited at the opening of the show and seeing Rodney's work and what you guys have put together as a great expedition. Expedition. What's the word?
Exhibition.
Great exhibition. A great exhibition.
Hey, we have a podcast.
We do. Luckily, it's not an English grammar podcast, or I'd be screwed. But anyway, it was a great opening night that I was able to attend. And so both Todd and I have said we're really excited for tonight. So thank you guys so much for letting us come in and hang out with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great. This has really been fun. We started the show just a couple of weeks ago, and it's really been explosive, the amount of media that people have wanted to do for us. So thank you.
Before we get started, I want to direct our listeners to your gallery website. It's gallery613.com, and gallery 6 is spelled out and then 13 numerically.com. And then you can find them on Instagram at gallery613. So check that out. I want to start out talking about the gallery. You're located in downtown Rapid City, correct?
That's right. 613 is a address also. It's 613 Main, across from the Firehouse. It's a nice restaurant here in town.
When did you guys open?
July 3rd, 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic.
It was the day Don Trump came to Rapid to see Mount Rushmore and Kristi Noem.
That's right. That's right. I remember that day well. My grandson was in town, and we went and watched the fireworks. And we were at Keystone Cemetery watching it, so that was fun.
Oh, cool!
Yeah. So, how long had you guys planned before the opening that you guys were going to do a gallery? How long did it take for the planning stages?
Well, we had this space in this building at 613 Main for rent, and it's my father's building. We've had it for decades, and we had lost a renter previous. And it was sitting empty, but, you know, there were other places that were empty too. And we were looking for renters, and Jay gave me a call looking to rent the space for a artist co-op originally. And so we kind of kicked the idea around. I said, well, geez, if you're doing an artist co-op, I'd like to be a part of that because I'm an artist too, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so he had to talk to some people and round up some people and do all that. And that was probably February when you called. Is that right, Jay?
I think it was a little later, March or April.
Maybe. But anyway, so
I don't remember. The
pandemic was just kind of turning on. And then he got back to me after the pandemic had kind of turned on, and he was like, I don't know if we can get this going or not, but let's give it a try. And we agreed to do that. And I think we originally kind of set out to kind of form a bit of a co-op. We reached out to several artists in the community, and of course, nobody was really interested in cooperating. And I think it was just because of the of the pandemic kind of looming that everybody was kind of aware of. So we kind of decided, boy, it was probably, I don't know, I don't remember the real dates, but the beginning of May, let's just say, we decided to go for it and to form a partnership between the two of us. We kind of just decided, like, if we just build it, maybe they will come, type of thing. And it was really out of the idea that we needed to do something for the artists in this area. So that's kind of how we got started. We put a lot of work into the space for, I don't know, probably about 6 weeks or something like that. And at the same time, still trying to get other artists to join us in this vision. When it was all said and done, we opened up with just a few artists, and when it was largely just me and Jay in the gallery ourselves, just with our own art.
But it worked out okay. We started selling some stuff. And then the other artists started to see that we had a pretty cool gallery. I think, wasn't Mark Zimmerman the first to join us, Greg?
Yeah, I think that's right. Mark Zimmerman, Deborah Mitchell was shortly after that. So we had some pretty good names for this area anyway, that well-known artists in this area and good producers of art. And so pretty soon we were kind of ramping up to probably like 6 to 7 to 8 artists. We started just inviting other artists that we knew. And we had some people kind of walk in and say, hey, can I be a part of this? And, we had to kind of set up a little jury process so we could let people in or not based on their, what their abilities were and such, that sort of thing. That was kind of a new process for us to be on the other side of the table, because you kind of want to give everybody an opportunity.
Yeah, we learned a lot about that. How artists present themselves is really important. And I learned a lot by the way people were doing it right and the way artists were doing it wrong. You don't walk in with your cell phone and start flipping images. And it's just like, you really have to consider the time of the gallery owners and respect that, especially if there's people inside the gallery. And too many artists will walk in and want your attention. And I know that they're nervous too, probably. But anyway, it was a good process, and sales started happening right away because we were in tourist season, and it was hopeful for us, even though it was right in that summer of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, what was probably different than a lot of places like in Colorado, they were shut down pretty hard. Where after 4th of July, because of the fireworks and Kristi Noem's whole initiative to keep South Dakota open, did you have a pretty good, as far as tourists, pretty well receptive, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, first of all, we were real careful with COVID. We expected people to wear masks, and we always were wearing masks. And Greg and I were pretty isolated other than just being in the gallery. And the gallery is a big open space, and never more than 4 people in at a time. So it was safe. There was always political reactions to the masks. You could tell the people that weren't wearing them and their reaction to things. Yeah, so it was kind of an interesting time. We had nothing to compare it to because we had never any previous business experience. So any sales were, a big bonus to us, and we're just happy to be doing it.
Yeah, I like to say that we risked our lives to get this gallery started for everybody.
Literally.
We hung in there. Yeah. Came in here all the time during the pandemic. It was a fun experience, and it worked out okay. I'm impressed with how it turned out. There were a few months. I won't say there wasn't. There was a few months. It was kind of ghost town down here, at times.
I also wanted to mention too that at the time I was able to get unemployment because of, as a gig worker, you could get the national unemployment and a little bit of state unemployment. Because Greg and I both had, and all the artists had lost their gigs, the shows, the art fairs, the things that we have to travel to mostly because, we didn't have any opportunities here in Rapid. And, so a lot of us had done art shows and whatnot out of town. And that ability to receive support from the government was really helpful in getting us open and keeping me financially stable for that period because, there weren't other ways to sell art.
Yeah, I think we both were actually on unemployment when we opened. I guess I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was more money I'd made in a while.
Well, and it had to have been nice to have your own venue to show your work since you weren't going to be able to travel to these festivals and fairs, right?
It was a real shift experience of being an artist for me because I was very motivated to get work done, knowing that, hey, if I get this done today, I get to hang it in the gallery tomorrow. And that kind of motivation really enthused me to be a more productive artist and really concentrate on keeping projects moving forward. And over the time that we've been open now, I have just made more art than I have in the past ever. So having the gallery was wonderful, and we're open not that many hours a day. So our shift isn't that much. We have 3 days on, 3 days off. Greg and I share the time down there. And so I have a lot of time to make art, and I really appreciate that. And I like what the gallery has done for me as an artist.
So are you guys running it as a cooperative, or is it just you guys? Like it's your gallery?
It's just us.
The amount of money that we needed from the artist wasn't viable except for artists that sell more expensive art. And we did want to include at the beginning some artists, that had paintings in the $150 range. So we worked it out as just a gallery mode. We take a commission from each artist.
Right on. And so how many artists do you guys represent?
We've got over 20 right now.
Yeah, we're really shifting. We put up the Bode show, and it gave us time to re-examine how many artists we want to have. We want to take that down a notch because we want to focus on artists that are really working hard and moving their career forward. Yeah, so we're kind of shifting. We know now which artists are selling too, which is so capitalistic.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about 2020, and that was such a different time than this last summer. And this last year, I think it's been a real growing experience for both of us. We're both artists first, I think, and then we're kind of forced to do this business side of it, to do the gallery and to do it for our behalf, but also for, helping out other artists in this area too. It's been one of those things that, like for myself, I guess, has been really interesting too. Like Jay was talking about how much he's produced. I was doing almost the opposite. I was like digging out everything I've ever painted, and I was just like, wow, I got like 5 different styles, and I don't even know if I should show any of this stuff, right? And that's always been a problem, I think, in my mindset, is that I didn't have like that one look, and so I could never really approach a gallery. So Jay was cool. He was like, yeah, those look nice. Let's put them in the gallery. So when we first started out, I put
in, we had more art.
My 5 different. Yeah, it looked like we had twice as many artists because I put in my 5 different styles, and we didn't start out with name tags next to all the artwork, so it worked out really good. People were like, wow, look at this artist and look at this artist. And it's all me, I was just like, it was kind of an unusual situation to see this happen, in front of your eyes and in real life. And it's just been breaking down a lot of these preconceived notions of what you have to be as an artist and what you have to have for gallery. And I know this is a different circumstance, but still it was a really great exercise. Then I could also see, which people liked what pieces and what was selling, and, maybe the size of that's too big. I need to work smaller, and different things like that. And so it did kind of make me kind of step back into, my work and take those things into consideration. So I don't know. It was kind of strange to have that happen for me. Just my own personal experience, but, and I think for some of the artists that we brought in, we had some artists that are in their 70s that have been doing this for a long time. And we have other artists that, are in their 20s and they're just starting out. And we were able to encourage both of them to be in here. And I think that's really one of the fun things that we had going on too, was just providing a venue where, those can coexist,
Yeah, it sounds both fun and educational. And how great is it that you get to have this front row seat to seeing people's interactions day in, day out about what they like and what resonates with them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love Jay's story. One time Jay told me a story about how some people came in and the woman, well, maybe he could tell a story. The woman liked my work and the husband liked his work, but they both absolutely hated our artwork on the other side of it. So it was really hilarious to have him experience that.
The wife liked Greg's, the husband liked mine. And he said something nasty about Greg's. She thought mine was childish. Anyway, they didn't buy anything.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So they walk away with nothing.
Yeah.
Geez.
But that's what's cool. I mean, that's what's cool about the gallery is that we can see some of that stuff and be like, oh, that's interesting.
Do you have a specialty? Do you have a niche as far as like what kind of art you're showing in your gallery, or is it a little bit of everything?
Well, up until the Bode show, we've been kind of just classifying ourselves as showing artists of the Black Hills region. And that was kind of our stipulation for the artists that came into this, that we represent, was that you had to be of the Black Hills in some fashion, which included, people that maybe grew up in the Black Hills of South Dakota and then moved away someplace and they're still producing work. They still get back here. They still are a participant in this area. Like sometimes they come back in the summer times or just to visit family. So we kind of made that a stipulation. So it kind of gave us a little bit more reach, I guess, by allowing for that. But everybody is basically a Black Hills artist. I think there's only like three that live outside of town, outside of the region. And, it's just one learning experience after another, it seems like. I mean, the Bode show, we had so many, I suppose, marketing obstacles to getting this up and going and just within our small little town. So that really opened our eyes because we had to do some different things around that. I can talk to that later, but now we're looking at this saying like, well, now that we know what we're doing, we should probably get these tools together for, having other shows like this and being a little bit more contemporary, having things that are more radical in terms of what's being shown. Rapid City's not known for being too daring. We have an art center here in this area that does a great job. And, but, sometimes it just feels like another one of those shows, kind of thing. And especially when you live in this area, it'd be fun to see something more outrageous. And, that's what we did with Bode. And it's proven to be a huge success just within the local group because everybody comes in and goes, wow, somebody's finally doing something, amazing. And, I don't know. So I'm speaking kind of general terms, I guess. But anyway, so in that case, I think we will probably look at the calendar a lot more closely and see the times when we kind of have to turn on for tourists, but then be able to really identify half the calendar for more specialized shows.
Yeah, one of the things that we both realized with this Bode show was that by focusing on one artist and really presenting it and then getting out there and chasing down media, that it's been successful. And I know that we have a unique story here and people were more open to hear it, and it was an easy sell. But we want to go forward and do that, especially for each of us as artists, and then other artists that we really want to work on.
So you guys would like to push the envelope a little bit more, and especially because no one else has really done that sort of thing, and seeing the reception that you've received, you feel like you could put together some shows that kind of, push it a little, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Also, really tapping into people that are interested in art and are interested in unique outsider art. Or most of our artists have a style here that's unique to the Black Hills. They're responding to the Black Hills and the beauty of this intersection of prairie and mountain forest. It's really beautiful here. And we have
that to thrive on as artists. And I think we kind of have our own kind of look as Black Hills artists, because we're all kind of using different materials, unique materials and whatnot. So to follow through on the thread is I really want to chase after people that are interested in that and not just rely on people that come into the door that are tourists from Minnesota and Colorado, whatnot.
And you guys mentioned something that I'd like to talk about because I wasn't aware of this term until I was talking to Greg. And that's this whole idea of outsider art. Can you guys kind of explain what outsider art is and that there's actually a movement of this?
I first heard it when I told my artist friend Jennifer Tobias about what we had found up in this house in rural South Dakota. And she said, "Oh my God, that is totally outsider art." So she was my introduction into it. And right away I hopped on the internet and found this explosive amount of information and what's going on in the world. Greg had already known about it and he was clued in right away.
Greg, you want to comment on it?
Well, outsider art is a category that has been largely reestablished, I think, in the last maybe like 15 to 20 years in America anyway, where you're taking a look at specifically artists that are, kind of reclusive. They're self-taught. Perhaps naive art falls into that a tiny bit, but naive art has its own characteristics too. And but this outsider art is usually one where they're not trying to push it out to the public. They're not trying to let anybody know about it. They're just doing it for themselves. And sometimes there's mental illness involved with some of these artists. Always self-taught.
Yeah, always self-taught. So they haven't had a lot of exposure to art classes and whatnot.
I mean, at first we were like, how did Bode have all this work in his house? Then we started talking to other artists in this area and several. I mean, Jay was out. I was talking to other people. Nobody had ever heard of this guy. He'd never rolled into town. He never was a part of things at the art center locally here and other types of groups. And so everybody was like, no, I've never heard of the guy and I don't know what you're talking about. And so it became kind of clear that we really did have an outsider artist on our hands when we first discovered his work. The more we looked into it and the more we researched that category, it just was like, yep. I mean, just kept checking off all the little check marks, for the different, items in that category. So it's really exciting for us. We feel, and we've talked to some people in Brookings, that's where our South Dakota Art Museum is, about this is the first outsider artist found in South Dakota. And we can easily claim that it's the first one found and documented and presented, and nobody else can lay claim to that. It's really been remarkable because it's been something that we just rolled across and by a lot of chance. And it ended up being over, 400 pieces of work and, hundreds of sketches and poetry and all this other stuff too. So it was just like this vast collection. And you're just like, wow, this doesn't usually ever happen. So
Black Hills Advocate is an organization, a business here in town that in situations where someone is committed to a mental institution and has no family, they step in and deal with the resources because he had his farm and his house and the property. So when they first went to the house, it was just stuck with this art. And so they contacted us and asked if we would come up and look at it. It's about 70 miles north of Rapid City here, and it was in the wintertime. I think it was about a year ago. Greg, was it November?
I think it was the end of September when they reached out to us. We had some early snows that made it feel like November.
Okay. It snowed the first day we were, I think. Anyway, unenthusiastically, I went, and we were both just blown away with like the quantity, first of all, and then the pieces themselves. They were just remarkable, and we were not expecting what we did walk into, and it was fabulous. It was really a lot of fun. We drove into the front road, right off the gravel road that you have to get there, and there were these 3 sculptures facing the road, and I was like, "Yep, this is where we have to be."
for people that are listening, Greg, why don't you tell us who is Rodney Bode?
So Rodney Bode is an 80-year-old artist and rancher that lived up just south of Arpin, South Dakota, which is on the east side of the Belfouche Reservoir. So if you know where Sturgis Rally is, because everybody in the country knows where the Sturgis Rally is these days because of the media, if you go directly north of Sturgis, you get to Bear Butte. If you keep on going north and then hang a hard left, you'll head out in the middle of pretty much nowhere. Before you get to the reservoir, you head north again, and then you're there. It's really amazing. It's, I mean, there's some other farmhouses out there and a lot of ranch land, but you get down this road and you can't really see much from the road, but when you get there, you know you're there because of kind of what Jay was saying. This guy had built this geodome on his property. It was made out of cement, kind of earth-built type thing. It was about 24 feet in diameter. And he had a remarkable history. Maybe Jay could touch on some of that. What ended up happening is that his wife had passed in January 2019, and he had gotten into some trouble with the neighbors, mostly because of his own dementia. So he'd been without his wife for probably about 16 months, and he was not taking care of himself. He wasn't really feeding his horse. He raised Arabian horses, and he wasn't really taking care of his animals. Anyway, he ended up taking after one of the local neighbors because he thought that the neighbor had taken his cats and his cell phone, and he was going to beat the guy up with a 2x4. So that all ensued, and luckily there was a third neighbor.
That's when the sheriff.
Yeah, so then the sheriff got involved. Once the authorities took a look at this guy's house, and they see these paintings, and they see this handmade knife collection that he made and all these other things, I'm sure they were just like, nope, he's not getting out tonight. And they kept him probably for a while just because of that. But, the sculptures in the front yard that have all sorts of kind of scary things and spiky things on them and stuff, there was plenty of reasons to kind of be like, oh, this guy's a little different. So that's when the state got a hold of Black Hills Advocate, and that's when a representative there reached out to us.
And so these mental health professionals, did you have a connection to them previous, or they just knew about you guys and they said, hey, let's contact these guys. They seem like they know what they're doing and they know about art. They're artists themselves. We want them to come up and kind of look and see what's going on in here.
A friend of mine, Natalie, was working for Black Hills Advocate. So Black Hills Advocate was working kind of in the dark on this, and it's kind of like they just didn't know who to reach out to in terms of the art. They didn't know what they had. I think they weren't sure if it was like, do we just collect this stuff up and toss it away, or is this worth something? Like, it was just really this idea of like, what's the value of this, if at all anything? And so one of their coworkers called me or texted me, I guess, actually, and just said, hey, we've got something that's a little different. And so I can't remember the adjectives she used, but I just kind of said, yeah, I'm always down for something crazy. And so then we went up, and that's where we kind of got the okay to talk to the director of the place. And then that's Jenny Schmidt. And Jenny called us and went into more detail about what she had. And we were like, yeah, we wouldn't mind going up and taking a look. And that's when we had the chance to really see what was up there and determine, what this collection really was in terms of style and Bode as an artist. And really, I mean, they would look around and they'd be like, this looks like just a bunch of junk. And we're like, no, this isn't junk at all. Look at here. This is a sculpture here, and this is one that fell over, and here's one that's over here. And look, there's 3 more in those trees over there. And then there's other ones around the corner. And they were like, oh, okay. And so, we could tell that this man was producing artwork, and for a long time. So it was important to gather everything up. They were in a kind of a crisis mode where they needed to hurry and get the ranch put together and on the auction block, so that he would have money for his care going forward. So we kind of dropped everything and kind of got right into there and it took us several trips to go get all the artwork and bring it back to the gallery because really they put us in charge of, well, what's the plan then? And so it came down to cataloging everything, photographing everything, measuring all these pieces, everything, and putting that all together so that we could take it then to the next step. So
a little bit of further history about Bode. He moved here about 21 years ago. He had seen the movie Dances with Wolves and really loved the movie, both the scenery and the landscape, but also the culture of the Native Americans, which are indigenous to this area. So that's why they moved here. And so he had been painting for 20 years, and the first dated painting we have is 97. And the last dated painting we had was 203. I think, and we kind of have put together that there was a transition between paintings and sculpture, and that happened around 203 at that period. So since 203, he's been mostly doing these outdoor raw metal, steel, iron sculptures welded together, but the style is definitely part of his paintings too. So you see the transition from painting to sculpture.
And to give this a little bit more context, this guy moved here from Idaho, and previous to that, he was living in California.
Right. Yeah, he was almost made it into Major League Baseball out of high school. He was in California. He was quite talented at baseball, got on the minor league team for the San Francisco Giants, played for 3 years, had a really good batting average up in the 330s, I think, and just never got called up. Real close, but so we see it as a theme. Like in his wife Renee's journaling, she mentioned that he always felt kind of like that was his big thing that he lost out on, and we're assuming, well, we know that it had an influence on his art because he paints one baseball into one of his biggest pieces, and you see orbs held in his hand in a lot of the other ones.
And in college, he majored in poli-sci, right?
Yeah, he was a cool guy. He was anti-war. He had been drafted late in the Vietnam War, and he went AWOL fairly early in the first year of being drafted. They caught him and put him in prison for a year at the Presidio. So yes, he was. And then after that, he did study politics, and he had a really interesting library in the basement of his house with some really. I studied politics too, and I was just fascinated with what he read and his take on world capitalism.
What kind of books did you find in there?
He was a pretty in tune guy on that one. Tolstoy and Russian related things, and then some pretty good contemporary politics. Zimmerman, a history of people's history of, I can't remember the book, but a good read. And I'm just drawing a blank on this guy that we both appreciated too. Anyway, but he had good art books, and he had good politics, or good, in-depth. It wasn't just garbage political junk reading. It was really deep political thought.
And in this documentary, this Randall Iverson did, the short documentary, and I'll post a link to that in the episode notes this week. But his sister said when she was interviewed that she thought that experience of being in prison really affected him, that it really caused some trauma, and that was kind of carried on, and you can kind of see it in some of this artwork that he's done.
I never connected this dot till you just asked this question. It's like maybe that was kind of the beginning of his mental illness, like a shift one of the things I say when people are looking at the art is I believe all of us in some ways are a little bit insane, a little bit crazy, or whatever word you want to use. And that's why we like the art, is because we see ourselves and our own kind of permission to be crazy. But I think some other people, it gets worse and steps into a deeper kind of insanity that carries on, takes over more of who we are in normal life. And so that's interesting. Maybe that was the start of it, was that prison experience.
And his neighbors described him as being kind of this hippie-ish guy, right? Like he walked right out of the 70s, but I guess he was a big Republican too. which I thought was kind of interesting when that was mentioned, that he was very much into the Native American culture and natural remedies and all this, but at the same time he had a lot of stuff going on, it sounded like, in his head and in his life.
Yeah, that really surprised me too, that he was a Republican, because it just goes to prove that people just have different ways of looking at things and then deciding how they identify politically. You know, he came from that anti-war past, and then that doesn't match with, you know, being a Republican to me, but for him it worked, or it did. So
it's always more complicated, right? It's like, don't judge a book by its cover, because there's a lot more going on with people than what we realize a lot of times.
Well, and that's the most interesting thing about this show, is that we have an art show going on for one person show, where we don't have an artist statement. We don't have a biography or any sort of anything that says, this is what I was thinking when I painted this. You know, usually artists leave some level of footprint, you know, throughout their art career. And this category of outsider art turns into more of like it just ends up being just everything about research and just digging into the artwork and digging into the poetry and some of his other writings. He was writing, you know, some story about a baseball player. I mean, there's all these things that we keep coming across, or some of the notes that we see in the edges of his books that he was reading, that you're like, okay, he was paying really a lot of attention to, you know, to this or that. But in our minds, we can only, you know, put all that together as best we can and try to tell people about some of these things about him, but we don't really know what he was really trying to convey in some of these pieces. So it's been a real treasure to be a part of this, but then it's also been really eye-opening too. Like, I mean, I think some of the initial things that Jay and I were looking at each other and said, okay, remember, sign your artwork, sign all of your artwork. Remember to date your artwork, you know, that type of thing, like just the simple tasks. And then really take some time to even like maybe journal about what it is that you're actually creating in life. Because once he's gone and his wife's not there to interpret it for us, we don't know, you know? And so we've been fortunate to have a couple people come out of the woodwork and tell us their experiences when they, you know, were at the Bode Ranch and stuff. And a lot of credit goes to Randall Iverson for chasing people down and trying to find the story. You know, he was a part of this project from pretty much a week after we got up to the ranch. And he was, you know, right in tow with us, the camera here and a camera there, just always kind of like following us into situations and then kind of going above and beyond himself by flying around the country and talking to people. So it's been a really fun experience, because every time we get together, Randall's like, oh, I found out something new. And then he'd tell us a few things, you know, and be like, oh, great. And then we'd all share it with everybody. And so it's kind of been one thing after another. So that's one of the things that's been unique, I think, about this whole process, is just that outsider art category is such a trip. You know, it's not typical, I think.
I wanted to follow up with Greg too on Randall Iverson, the videographer on this piece. That piece has been really driving the success of the sales and the number of people coming in to see the show. It's getting out there and people are connecting the story with the art. And that, I think, is at the heart of why so many people are responding and buying and wanting to be a part of this, is because the story is so incredible.
I know it did it for me. I was watching the video and I found myself getting emotional. I mean, hearing this guy's backstory and learning a little bit about him. And then, you know, obviously he was kind of on this slippery slope with his mental health, and seeing how somebody can almost like with the death of his wife, like a switch gets flipped and things start to go downhill. And yet at the same time, you're seeing pictures of this art in his house. And I'm like, oh my God, like that is just absolutely amazing, like out of this world. They're like some of the best art I've seen. I can't imagine what you guys felt when you walked into that house. I mean, this is a 1 in a million shot, right? That you have this kind of opportunity to be involved from the get-go and seeing this art for the first time and digging through all the pieces and taking it in.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, really, in a lot of ways.
That experience of the first day for both of us was just unreal. You walk into the house, and first of all, you see the amount of art, and that was very unusual, and the quality of the art. And then you walk outside and see this geodome, and inside the geodome that he built, it's out of cement, is more incredible art and a really interesting display of the sculpture. And the same with walking around the grounds. It's a 40-acre little patch of land that he had irrigated, and it's a cute little farm kind of thing. But anyway, the sculpture that was out in the yard, it was like an Easter egg hunt, just like, oh, another one I found it. Yeah. And every time we went up 5 times. And even to the last one, we found more sculpture just in piles of iron. So always just a real pleasure to get to do it and bring it back, and a good experience. So it wasn't so much a chore and work, but it was really a good extension of our lives as artists. Good for us to see this artist and what we have to do with our own work. It was kind of stepping into what it would be like if we had died, to see this and align that with our own art.
We're so lucky that Jenny and your friend had the wherewithal to like, let me get some artists involved, because I could easily see any other people, any other day, a big truck loading up to take it all to the dump. And then all this would have been lost. I mean, it's just by pure happenstance, it seems like, that you guys were able to save this collection of art and then now catalog it and now sell it. And so I'm just blown away, like, because I've known too many things where people just don't realize what they got and they just pitch, you know?
Yeah, I think it would have been easy to do that. And luckily, I think, Natalie was working with Jenny, and Jenny probably just turned to her and said, "Do you know anyone?" And Jenny's like, "Yeah, I know some guys that just opened a gallery. Let me give them a call," or whatever she said, and it turned into that. So, I mean, Natalie Slack is probably the one that gets a huge pat on the back for just knowing to just turn to some people that, and, honestly, I don't know. I mean, Jay and I were talking about this the other day, like we kind of didn't have anything going on other than opening this gallery. We didn't have a million things on our plates. We didn't have an impossible, like it would have been impossible for us to do. It was like, oh, we can totally get after this. And one thing that's kind of cool is that, Jay and I became partners in this gallery, but we didn't really know each other all that well. We were complete strangers when we first met before we opened the gallery. And
I had seen a little bit of his art, and he had seen some of mine, but we'd never met in person. And I kept seeing his stuff around town in different offices, and like, oh.
But we had never met and stuff, and so it was really just this combined. I don't even know. It was like this unity of two artists that had exactly the same feeling. Like, we have to rescue this stuff. We as artists owe it to this gentleman to step in here and get everything we can out of this place and save it. Almost because that's what we would want somebody to do with our stuff. I mean, Jay and I we're older, and we're not young little pups anymore. I mean, it wouldn't be unrealistic to think that could happen to one of us. And thanks, Jay. Jay's giving me some signs that he didn't appreciate that. But it's true. And the thing is,
he's way younger than I am. This is not being recorded visually, right? I mean, it's recorded, but yeah.
We're amazingly young in spirit, and a lot of fun to be around. So anyway, the thing is that
could have easily not been saved because it's challenging art. And you walk in and you see a bunch of garish colors. The women were freaked out. All of them at first were women that went up to the house. There was this huge round table full of these knives. They looked like straight out of Game of Thrones. It was bizarre. It freaked the women out. And they were afraid of the place, and it could have easily been junked. So yeah, it just happened. It wasn't like we were being heroes.
The other interesting thing, though, guys, is in the documentary, even the neighbor is like, I don't know, it looked like satanic stuff. The artwork was very satanic, and so it's just you get the wrong mix, and it's all in the trash. So
Right.
So how would you describe the artwork as a whole? Like when you were the paintings and stuff like that, as far as maybe stylistically or however you want to describe it.
Well, I wanted to step back and say, that ranch, what should have happened is somebody should have bought it from people that make horror films or sci-fi horror films, because it would have been a perfect location to do something really crazy. And because everything was there, you could have bought the house and just been like, hey, can we borrow some of the artwork? And then you would have had like this really cool psycho thriller thing happen. I mean, it did have that kind of tendency when you had everything in there.
And then plant 40 acres of weed while you're doing your movie.
Yeah.
It's irrigated. I'm sorry, Greg.
That was the one thing that was interesting. And it goes back to the point that really it was the perfect storm for it to come together where enough people put a lot of effort into it to make it happen, and for this to get rescued, and for this to be available for everybody to see and to participate in. In terms of the style of the artwork, one of the things that was really fun was that because it's such it's 40 years of artwork, you get to see kind of what was the beginnings and what was kind of you could see where he's like really struggling even just to learn how to paint. And then how he kind of finds his rhythm and his interest in sculpture was such that he was sketching sculptures and he was painting sculptures. And it wasn't until later that he was actually making sculptures. And so you could kind of see this trend in his work where it went from trying to understand how to even paint faces, but he's only looking at books that have like Picasso and Cezanne and the masters. You're trying to be a master right out of the gate, and then finding his stride where he's in his later years and these larger canvases that he ended up having. They have so much narrative and so much symbolism, and some of these titles just speak to how intelligent this guy was. So it just is fascinating body of work. I would say I'm down at the gallery, so I can look around and be like, oh yeah, it's very representational. Some of it's abstract. The sculpture paintings and things are very abstract. The sculptures themselves are somewhat representational, but not entirely. So it's a little all over the map. Maybe Jay has more he can add to that.
I am coming to learn now as we spend more time with the art and interact with people seeing it. And a lot of really people that I respect, their comments on it. His style is his own. Like any great, really master or breakthrough artist, I think they have a unique style. It's very informed by people like Pollock, the drip paintings. There's several of the paintings that are based on that drip style of painting that he would then paint over. He would add his own distinct style to the drips. There's one painting that isn't. It's a two-sided drip painting like Pollock's, but otherwise you see influences of great masters, but in his own depiction. Matisse, and I see a lot of that. People see a lot of Picasso. There's one nude woman, and this guy said, "Oh wow, that is like a Picasso adaptation." He said just the other day, and so just add what Greg said was that I think he does have his own incredibly identifiable. You'll know right away that this is a piece of Bode art.
That's the sense that I got looking at the pieces that I've seen, and I saw some of that. His influence is his interest in Native American culture. I can see that in some of those pieces as well.
Western culture and Native American culture are very present in all of his work. And in an appreciative way, he hits on everything in the world. In Buddhism, Muslim, he has a Muhammad portrait, which would be very offensive to a lot of people. Who else does he mention? Some symbolism coming from Japanese culture.
Remind me how many pieces that you've cataloged, how many paintings and how many sculptures?
I think it's around 240 paintings and 44 sculptures. And there were about 30 knives that we described earlier that were on that table that are kind of their own separate sculpture category, but 30 distinctive knives.
And then he had 4 editions of poetry, had 4 booklets that he would make. He would write the poetry and then go to like some local copy center of some sort up probably in Belfouche and get those made just at a copy place and have them saddle stitched.
It's like the poetry's copied onto like pink paper, like at an Office Max or something. It's one step below self-publishing, but it's interesting poetry. It really matches who the art is about.
So have you enjoyed reading the poetry? Is it good poetry?
Yeah, it's actually really enlightening to the work that he does. He touches on philosophers and on other artists. And you can read through it and you're just like, oh, I don't know who he's referencing here. And then you can go Google that person and you find out all sorts of stuff. You're like, oh, okay, this is an Italian sculptor and this is why he liked this guy. And, we have the ability to Google everything. I don't know if he spent that much time doing that kind of thing. Most of this stuff was done when there wasn't that much of an internet. And of course, he lives out in an area where they didn't have it for the longest time. It's pretty dark out there anyway. And if you drive too far past this place, you have no cell service at all. So, it's fun to read. And there's a lot of jabs in his poetry. He'll kind of make a jab at society in general or Disney or people that like Disney, just kind of out of the blue. One of his favorite writers was Annie Sexton, and he had a lot of books of poetry and also short story type writers. And so it was really kind of fascinating. His wife in her journal mentioned about how she thought that she didn't appreciate that he was having this affair with Annie Sexton. And we were like, Annie Sexton, how's that possible? And then, you go back and you're like, well, they were alive at the same time, but not for very long, and he may have been like 17, but I don't think she was into baseball and, all these things. And you're just trying to figure it out. And you're like, okay, she obviously just meant like maybe a mental affair or, that kind of like spending too much time reading that book. I don't know. So
his wife also had mental issues and, she was challenged too,
right.
Bipolar and whatnot.
And she was taking medication for that.
For about a week. But for a week, we thought maybe he had an affair with Annie.
Well, there was always the funny things that came out of this. Like the guy, one of the gals early on, I don't know which one said it, but they said something like, well, he's delusional. He said that the Russians were trying to get a hold of him, people from Russia. And I'm like, what? Why would that happen? And then, we're going through stuff and we're finding like there's a painting that's literally on the back of a real estate sign that's from Moscow, Idaho. Well, he lived in Moscow, Idaho. So what he probably said was that people from Moscow are trying to get a hold of me or they're trying to chase me down or whatever it is. And he meant Moscow, Idaho. He didn't mean out in Russia. So the little snippets we'd get were sometimes misinterpreted, I feel, but it was fun to scramble around and try to figure out what they were talking about. So we had a lot of fun with the writings and the different things that we were discovering. Like I said, it's just been this kind of treasure hunt to try to figure this all out and kind of get a sense of what he was thinking.
There's this real small tablet about this big of 35 drawings, and they all have the same eyes. They're all portraits, kind of like the series of portraits that he did in paintings, but they're just sketches, drawings. Phenomenal. And there's 35 of them all in one book. You can kind of do that thing and like, whoa. it's there are three of them in that little sketchbook that I wish he had painted because they're just really good.
He also enjoyed playing music, and he had different instruments in his house, and we found out just recently, really after we opened the show, because it brought out a friend of Renee's that used to work with her at the post office. Her name's Nancy Sullivan, and Nancy was telling us how Renee worked largely the night shift at the post office here in Rapid City. So that meant that she would show up for work at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then not get done with her shift till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and that she would drive home at 2 o'clock in the morning up to this ranch, which is, how far is that drive, Jay? That's easily like a 1 hour drive.
I think it's about 70. And it's all gravel after about the last.
And I can't even imagine doing that in the winter time.
Yeah, she would get lost. And the Sullivan that worked with Renee at the post office here, she said she could tell when Renee was off her meds. And a couple of times she got lost after leaving at 2 a.m. And then she'd call Bode up, and it got to be a real circus at the end of this, their relationship and life.
She would complain about him playing his music too loud and stuff in the journal. Well, now we can understand, because she was probably trying to sleep,
Yeah.
So, I imagine winters were pretty tough in that household.
In her journal, she would be resentful of having to do the heavy lifting in the finances. They just barely got by, and it was evident in his art. He would flip a painting over and paint on the back side of it. About 15% of the art is got paintings on both sides.
Well, and even in that documentary, they kind of say that it seemed like, and it might have been a quote from one of you two, that it looked like he just ran out of material to utilize. So he was like painting on anything and everything, or making stuff with the materials that he just had on hand.
Yeah, and if he ran out, he would run to the thrift store and get some cheap paintings or something. Anything that looked like it could be a tack board or something like that, or a pegboard of some sort, and he would just get these materials and he'd paint them on top of other, I wouldn't say paintings, but reproductions of whatever motel art it was,
Thrift store art, yeah.
Thrift store art with really bad frames, and he'd paint over them. And
yeah, they actually are way better
paintings.
with what Bode did with them. It's really kind of cool, and for some reason he was also respectful of the fact that underside he would let be revealed, and he would not cover over that artist's signature. He respected the artist's signature, even though it was like a nobody artist, I suppose, and so it was just really remarkable. We've got several, I don't know, maybe it's like 6 or 7 that really are that way in the collection. We only really have half the collection on view right now. So we have 115 paintings on display. How many sculptures we got out? 25 or something? I don't know. I didn't do a count. I guess I'm sitting here. I could probably figure it out.
We can't put up the big sculpture. Some of it's just too heavy and big for our gallery. So that's the main reason on the sculpture. And then we have about 100 paintings still down in storage. We're slowly letting people see those, just because we've really had an amazing 2 weeks of sales. Never before had we had days consistently, people coming in and serious buyers. It's that is an incredible new experience.
Yeah, it was kind of funny we have our Square device, and you can look back at, in October, I was like, I wonder what we did last October. And last October, I think I probably shouldn't even say. It was terrible. I mean, it was less than $100. It was when COVID was like turning back on again.
Yeah,
and everybody was freaked out, so they weren't going out. And we just, of course, we blew that out of the water. But it was just amazing to see what we were able to do with this show. And the numbers are interesting too, in that probably 90% of our sales are local, like within, driving distance of Rapid, and just this Rapid City area, Black Hills area, Spearfish, primarily. And
the others are regional. Omaha, Minneapolis.
Yeah, we got a few, we just got a handful from those in Sioux Falls. And so it's been fun to see that, because all summer long, it was the other way around, where tourists were coming into town and buying probably 75% of the work on the walls. Whereas, the locals would stop in and get a few things, but it was really a different market. And so this is really fun to see the support for this show. And not just with, art lovers, but with people in this area that are stepping outside of maybe what they typically buy to support this, because the majority of the money that we're collecting on this is going to go towards his future care. So our effort is to, put him on the map and get some press and get a footprint. One of the things that we had first started to do is we had put the whole collection together in a catalog, and we were aiming at just taking it straight to Christie's. In fact, we had an advisor that had worked for Christie's and was giving us that impression that that's what you do. Well, it turns out that in the category of outsider art, you need to have some level of footprint first. There needs to be, somebody needs to put them on the map, and there needs to be something that other people can discover first, because otherwise it's just completely unknown. There's nothing to read about. There's nothing to see. There's nothing, like, nobody's done anything, right? So that's where it kind of fell back on us to be like, well, okay, we really have to get this show up. We have to get people to see this, not just regionally, but nationally. And so that's why we're anticipating taking it to the New York Outsider Art Fair in February, which will be a fun experience, and really just having a booth there and showing only Bode's work.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because I read in one of the articles that were written about the exhibit and what you guys were doing with it, that there was going to be some kind of a show in New York. So that's what you're thinking, is you're going to go to this art fair in February?
It's a category of art that's really popular, especially on the East Coast. It's popular in the West too, but I think more so on the East Coast and definitely in Europe. And so there's a large draw.
Outsider art.
Outsider art.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not outside art. One person found out, they're like, well, you're having outside art in November? That might be a little chilly. Like, no.
It's a whole different take on outsider art. Outsider art outside.
So anyway, so that fair has been going on for quite some time. It's every year, and it's the same time Christie's has an outsider art auction that same week or the following week. I mean, it just depends on what their schedules are, but they usually match up with that show. So we're kind of hoping that people have a chance to kind of get some eyes on Bode and get to discover what we've discovered. I think it's really fascinating. We've been up and down the internet and, looking at galleries that have outsider artists in them and such, or the different, Facebook groups and things like that. And, it's interesting that the category is so kind of fresh and hot, but to me, it feels like it's filled with all sorts of people that, not that they're posers, but, that we feel like we really have the real thing here. We have an 80-year-old gentleman who's an artist and has been for the majority of his life, and has been doing work. He's not doing work and then like taking pictures of it and setting it up on the Art Brute Instagram. You know what I'm saying? It's not that. I mean, like, that disqualifies those people, because that's not that, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Right. So there's a lot of kind of
part of the outsider description is that they haven't exhibited besides the mental illness, self-taught, and but it is the fact that he never did exhibit, and no one's had seen it. it goes two ways because no one was seeing his art. He wasn't all. I don't think he was seeing other art either. So those both play into the outsider kind of totally outside of culture, not just in aspects of his showing of the art. He was a real loner guy. I mean, he didn't work outside of the ranch and nobody knew him.
So yeah, I think we really have the real deal here, and it's just going to be a lot of fun to introduce people to him and to his work. It's hard to really put into words because it's, I suppose you'd be like, hey, have you ever heard of the artist Van Gogh? Kind of thing. I mean, I'm not on that level, but the story of Van Gogh, his brother's wife had to chase that down for years and years and years, even after Theo was gone. And so if you know the history of that, that it was to that woman's credit that we know who Van Gogh is. And we kind of feel like we're kind of in that same zone where we're the ones having to let the world know who Rodney Bode is and do our best. And that's why it's still kind of in a discovery process of looking at his work. I mean, it'll be fun if we can even have art historians become more of a part of this. They can look at his work and start to see the things that we see. We see it in kind of we both had art history. We both had those kinds of things, but it's like we're in the art world ourselves. But to have somebody that really has that ability to dive in deep with this guy's work would be a real fun thing to witness. So
I agree. And I've seen some phenomenal shows here in Denver as of late. And everything that I've seen of this guy's work, I would put that in any gallery here, and hands down, it's just phenomenal work. I mean, it's legit.
Yeah, it has a truth to it. It has a real discovery to it. It's challenging. I mean, it sometimes really challenges you to look at it. When we were picking it up out of his house, and we're putting it in the trucks, and we're being careful with everything, and we're bringing it back, and we're putting it into storage, and we're being careful with everything. It wasn't really till we started doing all the photography that we got the chance to, put it under some lights and really be just wowed time and time again.
So you've documented all these pieces. Are you guys going to put together a book? Obviously you have a catalog of it all, but are you going to kind of try to put together a book at some point? Have you thought about that at all, to kind of represent who this guy was and what he did with his art?
That's an interesting idea. We already have a writer working with us on some of this stuff too. So Kristen Donnan is a really well-known art writer in this area. She had a lot to do with the Hill City T-Rex thing back 20 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever that was. She's helping with some writing. We need to put together what's called what's the word? Raisonné. See, I don't even know this word.
Raisonné. You got to put your lip up like that.
Raisonné. Don't have French in me at all, so I don't. Anyway, if it even is French, I don't even know. Could be Latin.
I think it's French.
It's a catalog of an artist's complete listing of his artwork, his or her artwork.
So we're doing that for
as much information. And that's basically what we had done without realizing we are creating one. But we do hope to have a full visual catalog of all the pieces. That's our next step. And this has all been new to us, and we have been running the gallery over tourist season. And so this was challenging to us to get the show up and out. But that is our next step, is a really cool book. We want to make 100 prints of it initially. So we'll have some time now between now and February to work on stuff like that. Yeah, that's in the plans. There's been some discussion too about reproductions of some of the work in terms of reprint. Black Hills Advocates, as the guardians of guardianship of this collection, they're the legal owners of it, and they can decide if they want to pet it or not. We've been talking to Jenny about that, and so we do hope to do some of that, possibly publish that poetry book. That needs to be. Yeah,
that'd be really awesome.
So I want to, the other thing, I kind of know the answer to this, but I think this is a great question, is so Bode's institutionalized, and what's his involvement with art now?
His dementia is really serious. His memory span is 3 minutes. And so we don't know for sure, but the facilities aren't there for him to do art. A lot of people have asked about it, especially therapists. They see that as a real way through mental illness is to do art, especially if you're an extreme artist like Bode. But he's incapable of that. When they tell him that he doesn't understand that his farm has been sold, he's just not capable anymore of understanding most of it. I just thought it would be kind of cool if we did print that poetry book to send him it. And I'd be curious if he recognized his own work.
Yeah.
What do you think, Greg? I think that's what we're hearing. We have never been able to meet the man. He's kept pretty secure.
It's a challenging question for me too. My mother had severe dementia. She lives with Alzheimer's right now. And so just on a personal basis, my mother lost her artistic abilities almost immediately when she had such bad dementia, and they just didn't return, which was sad because I honestly thought, I don't know, for some reason, I guess I always thought as an artist that that's the last thing to go, your creativity and that juice that just flows through us. That's almost like life-giving blood. To have that just disappear so fast is just so sad. So I've dealt with it with my own mother, and because she was an artist herself. And so people come into the gallery and they ask us these things quite often, and we haven't found at least I haven't found the perfect answer. They say things like, well, maybe if you brought him here and he could see his work, maybe that would snap him back, or maybe if you sent him some art supplies, maybe he would just snap back into being an artist. I mean, I understand the hopefulness of those comments, but at the same time, when my mother was going through the dementia, I worked with her daily, and I was like teaching my mother how to use watercolor brushes. And, she taught me that when I was a little kid. She should know this stuff, and she just didn't get it. And dementia is really a terrible disease, and it's something that is very real and very hard to pull away from. And I just don't think he's going to be producing anything as his life continues, which is really sad.
He's very healthy physically, though. He was always an athletic type of guy, and from the pictures we see of him, he was a very fit guy. And what we hear now is he's still, physically very stern guy, and will probably continue to live. Some
gals came in today to the gallery and they asked, well, hey, would you like to meet him someday? And my response was almost like, well, I could meet this person, but I would really more like to meet the guy that was 3 years ago that was creating stuff, and or maybe 10 years ago, whatever that figure was, where you could have a conversation with this man and we could walk around and talk about each one of these pieces. And, that's what I would love. I would love to meet that person. I don't believe that's the person that's sitting in Yankton right now. And that's the sad part, is I wish that was the person that we could meet.
It's pretty amazing that they had the foresight to go and reach out to you guys or to anybody and think that, hey, this is something important. But that just goes to show you, and I've had this conversation with a friend of mine before, and we've discussed this on the podcast, but even if you don't know anything about art, don't you believe that if you see something good, you know it? You don't have to be a, art historian or art expert to know when something's good. When you see it, you know it's good. And initially you were explaining these women were kind of scared to be in this house because it was so, kind of dark and weird or whatever. But I got to guess that as they spent time walking around, it started to resonate, at least with Jenny, that, hey, this actually is something here. And we do need to do something about it. It just shouldn't go to the landfill.
Yeah, she had that perspective. It was really clear, but I have friends, I shouldn't even admit this. I have friends though, that could have been that Jenny person and would have been like, look at all this crap, and they could have turned to somebody else and said, just get a bigger, bin out here and just fill it up and we'll haul it out of here, we don't need this crap. We don't need to deal with this. And the auctioneer's not going to take it, So
it was just another obstacle in their goal of getting, his farm liquidated. And so, yeah, it could have easily been just shoved aside. I think that's all of the women involved over there at Black Hills Advocates.
They're very caring to their people. And I've just been amazed that, Amber over there just speaks so kindly of him. And they all just wish the best for him on a constant basis. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how this whole thing has played out. And hopefully he's able to continue to get this great care that he's been able to receive, because it could have gone a different way, I'm sure. So you alluded to the fact that you've had really great sales. All the proceeds for the most part are going to his care. Is that what I understood?
It goes to the advocate. They take the assets and then they manage them for him. But it will eventually be his estate that gets it. So.
And we should say, I'm sorry, I just want to mention this because we haven't touched on it during this whole show, is that, and some people have questions about this, the reason that this is working out is because Bode's lawyer, he has a lawyer that Jenny speaks to and works with. So Jenny's the guardian and Jenny is the consecutor of his estate. But Bode himself has an independent lawyer that she talks to, and he gets to decide things on behalf of Bode. And his view was that the artwork is his last remaining asset. The ranch has been sold. There's no longer a home to go back to. So everything else has been liquidated. And the only thing that remains are these 400 pieces of works or whatever we want to call it. And so the lawyer believed that it's important to tell this story, to get this story out there, to use as an agent to market for the sale of this artwork, because it is his last asset and it's his last chance of getting the last funds that he needs for the rest of his, care facility. I just want to mention that because that's a question that comes up sometimes. Like, they're like, well, how are you selling this if he's still alive? And isn't he going to be pissed off if he finds out? And that kind of thing. And it's like, well, no, it's all been, we've covered this, we've heard a few times, and it's always like way after the fact that he has tried to escape from wherever he is. And then on opening night, Amber was here and she said, so does it ever cross your mind that, he might just escape and then just walk in the front door or something like that? And I'm like, well, yeah, because you guys keep mentioning it, it kind of does make me think that could be a possibility. And we probably shouldn't have those knives on display as we do. It does make you worry about if a mentally, challenged person in this case doesn't understand what's going on. You could easily be like, what are you doing to all my stuff? And give it back to me or whatever it is, so.
His sister in California that is still in contact with everyone is very appreciative that his work is getting shown. She's actually coming from California out to see the show here in the week after next. And so there is support even within the family too, because it was a concern for Greg and I. We did feel kind of walk into someone's home and take out their art is very personal and invasive on someone.
Yeah.
We wanted to be real clear who the owner of the art was and that we had permission to sell it, and that later in the process that someone wasn't going to step up and create a legal process that we didn't want to be
a really great documentary.
It's all clean. Yeah.
Or a really unhinged documentary.
Yeah. So I was kind of curious about that. Obviously, you kind of laid out how this is all coming into play, but I didn't know if there was other legalities that had to be dealt with as you guys being kind of the gallery or being the gallery representation for him and selling the art. What kind of things you guys had to do as gallerists. I assume you kind of have some kind of contractual thing that.
Yeah, we have a contact with Black Hills Advocates.
Okay.
We're basically working for them to sell his art. So then any other connection and negotiations is through them with Bode's lawyer. And so far, everybody's on the same page.
That's great. That's fantastic. And so you have all this work, and you mentioned, I think, Christie's earlier.
Yeah, as an auction house, they'll sell an entire collection. You know, if it gets collected by one collector, the market for those are really coming in stride now. And I think people are kind of shifting towards more naive art and more authentic art, and not this gimmicky art that seems to have shaken the art world recently. And I don't mean to put down any artists, because I like what's happening and some of the new things in art, but yeah, there's a trend back towards naiveness and authenticity.
And so how does one, with this art that's never been seen by this unknown artist, but obviously outsider art is a big hot topic, about big hot thing in the art world, how does one go about pricing this artwork? Did you work with an appraiser, or how does that happen? How does that work?
We winged it. We think we priced it too low. And there's one piece I really missed on, and he had painted over a Van Gogh poster, and I priced it way low because it was just on this cheap piece of cardboard. And several people have wanted to purchase that since. And yeah, look at Greg, he's still shaking his head on that. Yeah, so we will increase the prices after this initial show. We're very pleased with the Rapid City and regional people that have supported us and the Bode collection. So we didn't know. We didn't know how to do it. We based it, basically, we increased the prices of what we would sell similar sized art of our local artists that are doing well, and went from there. And
well, yeah, we had such a really good sales season this summer. It was just fantastic. Everybody was coming into the area and traveling, and we had so much traffic and we had so many sales. And so it was easy for us to say, I don't know, a piece this size right now in our gallery goes for $1,200. So then it's like, well, let's just make it $1,200. You know, and so then based off that, then we know that this piece goes up to 2,400 and this piece goes to 4,400 or whatever it is. That, I mean, Bode still is a Black Hills artist to us. If he had driven down here himself and said, here's my art, I'd like to be represented, we would have handed him the same as everybody else. So we kind of did it that way. We didn't put much premium on some of the stuff. You know, but we've had terrific sales. We've sold nearly 50 artworks in 2 weeks. And I don't know.
In 2 weeks, that's just.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's exceedingly, we were doing just fantastic. I mean, we were like, at first we were like, well, let's just keep everything contained in the show, just like maybe a museum might be, because people want to see all of his work. But we can only show half of it. So we have the other half archived and in storage downstairs and in the back and upstairs. So we have it throughout the building. But then we were like, well, we didn't expect to sell 45 pieces. Maybe we should take down some of these instead of having them up for the rest of the show and change it up and go get another fresh 45 for people to see. And so we're probably going to have to do that. It's been a whole different experience than what we anticipated. And it's been exceedingly successable. And I was just telling another artist today too, that I can't think of another art show. I'm sure I'll be corrected on this. There's lots of one-person art shows in this area. Well, from time to time, and in South Dakota from time to time. But I don't think any of them would match our sales.
Or our participation, number of people coming in. We have, what's interesting for both Greg and I is that people come in and usually a person will spend 5 minutes. If they're interested in a piece, they'll stay longer and the interaction takes place. People come in, and most people, of course, aren't able to buy art, but they're spending 30 minutes and they're talking with other people and us about the art and offering up their impressions and whatnot. And that's really unique to it. People are fascinated. And at first, we really wanted to sell this as an intact collection that just went to one person. But now that I see a lot of people here in South Dakota buying this art, I really hope for them and the collection that it does spread out to a lot of people, and that then we do get the chance to escalate this collection into a really major art artists of America, so that they get to be a piece of something really important. That would be wonderful. My vision of what we can do with this collection has changed over the last 2 weeks as I've seen a lot of local people buy the art.
Yeah, that's had to be really interesting to see from the opening and just the participation. How many people do you think has come through to see the show so far? Do you keep tallies of your numbers?
We had 2 opening nights kind of for different audiences, and there were probably 150 people at each of those, which was really a lot of people for an art opening around here. We have a Doll Art Center, which is our local museum that offers local shows, and for this many people to come out, a lot of it is just because we've had tremendous press, the local TV, the local newspaper, South Dakota Public Broadcast really gotten involved and supported us. So
I would say between 600 and 700 people, but that's in 2 weeks. Thankfully, it's not all at once. That would have been crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been amazing. And, at our local art center, we see shows and you get your normal people there and stuff. And then it drops off real fast after that.
And a lot of time it's the same crowd, people that like art and going to art openings. This is everybody.
Yeah.
Even we have people come off the street, that just walk in and are like, wow, what the heck is going on here? And
I think that right there just sums it up, right? That speaks to the quality of the work. When you have just people walking in off the street and their like mind is blown, you know that you got something good going on, right? Like the work is of that caliber.
Yeah, we've had a few that, they kind of come in and they're like, oh my God. And then they kind of cut and run, and so we're like, oh, we need to make sure to at least explain to people what this is. Because some people are just like, okay, that was wild or whatever it is. And they take off. And so we've had a few people like that, but very few. Most people come in, they kind of like look at us like, what am I seeing here? And so we were like, oh, we got to really just have this conversation where we kind of ask people now, like, are you familiar with the Rodney Bode story? And almost everybody is saying yes. Almost everybody's saying yes at this point.
Yeah, we've seen the video. We've read the newspaper. We got a front page article, the lead head article this weekend in the Rapid City Journal, which we had seen. Both Greg and I don't get the newspaper, and we'd seen it, the edition on the internet. And then I saw a newspaper. I'm like, holy moly, it's the front page. So this week, this last 3 or 4 days, that's been a lot of people from that.
And that doesn't happen in this area. The Journal doesn't, that's not going to be front page news, and probably in any community.
It was top story, right. Top story, front page.
And I can tell you from my own experience that in that first show a couple weeks ago that I walked in a little overwhelmed, knew the story kind of briefly because Greg and I have talked on and off for a few months. And then the more I spent time with that stuff, the more excited I got. And both Tonette and I were walking around just really kind of really taking it all in. And there's some pieces I just fell in love with. So, yeah, it's a great show. And I'm glad you're getting the feedback. And, just the other night, it was 33 pieces, I think you said you sold. And that was last week. And now we're up to 50. I mean, this is phenomenal.
Yeah, and we've had sales every single day. That never happens. Just like we don't even catch a break, but it's cool. It's like, you just don't expect it. And, Jay was saying like, I can get used to this. And it's kind of a cool sentiment because, we're so used as artists to be like, well, we didn't really sell anything again, and then you get to a place where you have some big sales, then it kind of goes quiet again. And we're used to that. But this constant selling of this guy's work is just amazing.
We've had a couple of $8,000 days, which is a lot for us. And whoever's working, we text each other saying, hey, I just sold this. And the first day it happened when Greg had this collector buying several pieces, And then other people kept following through on that day. I was sitting at home, just looking at my phone, just going, no way. It's been fun. That's been a really fun part of it. And it sounds greedy or weird or whatever, but it has really been fun.
Well, I don't think it's greedy because it's going back to a good cause, right? So, and
yeah.
And you know what I think is really spectacular is we're having this conversation. I'm so glad that you guys are having the show in October into November, past tourist season. Now, granted, it would be great if people from all over the place that came from wherever were buying this art, but I think it's really spectacular that it's mostly local people that are, acquiring these beautiful pieces, these really interesting pieces of this man's work, that it's staying in the region, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we really had a sense of once the sales started really ticking, we were just like, wow, this is really cool. And then realizing how much was local, it was just one of those things that, we did the show to honor his work. I mean, we really took a lot of care to hang it nice and do different things with it and really to tell a story. I mean, we were prepared for nobody in this area liking it. I mean, we're kind of, we get, as artists, we are so conditioned to be unsure of what we do, maybe on a daily basis. I don't know. For me anyway, I was prepared to let's put this show on for 5 to 6 weeks, and it's okay if we don't sell anything. It's okay. I mean, we gave it a try. We put a lot of hard work into it, but I was prepared for that. And for it to go completely the other way has just been outstanding. And for it to be local, these are local people buying these, gives us, both Jay and I just look at each other and think wow, we're really rethinking how we do the gallery because we've hit a stride with this and it speaks to the fact that stories help to sell the work and to really set that up for other shows and do more of that kind of thing, because there are art buyers locally that we didn't know of. And because we were catering to this outside element that's looking for, some representation of a buffalo or whatever it might be.
Vacation memorial.
Yeah. Vacation memorials,
Yeah.
That's fine. It brings in some money, but, and it helps sell some art, but it's not really what we're all about. We're really about something a lot gutsier than that, especially artistically. So both Jay and I are just really wow, this is really a great mindset to be in and to go forward with.
So I have to tell you,
both,
Greg, I was down in Denver a couple of weeks ago and I talked to A.L. Loomis and told her the story of what your guys are doing up there or up here. And she's excited that you're willing to go outside the box. And, I was telling you about her artwork and I would love to see the two of you, if you can make it happen. I think there's another great story opportunity in her work. And I think Rapid City needs this kind of show. So I'm really excited. I hope I can, help facilitate that. And I'd love to see her, Rapid City had the opportunity to see your stuff a few months or last year and they passed and I was really disappointed. So, I'd love to see that happen with A.L. Loomis and you guys, because I think that would be a great partnership for a wonderful show. And speaking of that, so Bode show is done November 22nd. Is that right?
November 20th.
20th.
We will still have Bode art in the gallery. We're just not going to use the whole gallery for the one-man show, but we will still have his art and introduce any art that they want to see in the gallery between now and the February 2nd show in New York.
That's what I was wondering. What was next? So yeah, that's so it'll be great to see some other local artists' art back up, your guys' art back up, but it'll definitely be great to see Bode's stuff stay up until that February mark. That's awesome.
Yeah, we kind of decided that just last week was well, we got to keep this rolling. It's too successful, and people are like, what about what's in the basement? We're like,
well,
yeah.
Isn't that the way it always works? It's like, hey, I want to see the other stuff.
Yeah, we may have to have a January show too. I don't know. We'll see. West Coast.
Well, that was like when I bought Tadashi's work. Bill took me upstairs to his gallery and showed me some of Tadashi's work at the Bit Factory, and I ended up buying one of those pieces. So yeah, I'm always interested what's in the basement now.
Yeah, everybody wants to see what's behind the curtain,
Yeah.
right? It's always the best stuff, you know.
And in case you're wondering, next time Wes comes by, he still has wall space in his office at work. So
I do. And I've actually eyeballed a couple of Bode's stuff. I just have to like pull the trigger and get some money. I need to sell some more pens.
hey, so let's talk a little bit about the work before we let you guys go tonight. Paintings, size-wise, what do you guys have? Does it go pretty small to really large? What's the size range? What's the scale?
Yes.
Yes, the scale is from the smallest piece is 6x6, a little portrait of a woman, very beautiful. And then the largest pieces are on these canvases that are unframed that we have just flat against the wall or hanging in the gallery as you see pictures. There are a total of 43 of those. We have about half on display, and those are big. Those are 8 foot by 6 foot. And then he did 7 pieces in masonite, where he got these big, huge 6 foot by 4 foot by 8 foot masonite boards, right, Greg? That's the size?
I think it's called like
4x8?
marlite, actually, because it's sided with with a white enamel or something on the one side. But yeah, it's a masonite product.
And there's 8 of those pieces. A couple of those are double sided.
Wow, that's
And then they're in between. There's a lot of pieces that are quite large, 3 foot by 4 footers, that size. A lot of them, probably 40% of the collection, is in pieces about 8 by 12 portraits. A lot of women portraits.
And then sculpture wise, I know you have. Oh yeah, now Greg's giving us a little shot of the gallery. Sculpture wise, how many sculptures do you have in the gallery currently? And what is that? I mean, I guess they probably range in pretty good sizes. You said there were some that you couldn't even put in the gallery. Yeah.
Right. So that we have
the sculptures, there's a couple of 6 footers. Again, the sculpture, there's 4 of them that are big, tall things, 6 foot, 7 foot things. And then a majority of them are little pieces, like about 3 foot, little things that fit on a pedestal. They're mostly in the window now or outside windows. I'm starting to really like the sculptures now. I see more complexity than when we first pulled them off.
Isn't that the way it always works though, Jay? Like you initially, maybe it didn't grab you, but the more you spend time with it, you start looking at the nuances and you go, wow, there's some really great stuff going on with this.
Yeah, definitely. And it can be the opposite too. You can really be like blown away by a painting or some piece of art. And then when you're around it longer, it's just like, it doesn't sustain. But this stuff not only sustains, but you grow in depth with the appreciation of, it's like a nice relationship that's developing, but with art.
I want to talk about a piece that really struck me and I really like, and it's this piece here. I was just
looking at that Bode number 9.
You stop right now, Wes Brown, because we do this all the time.
Is it still available? Has it sold yet?
Yeah, I just put it up online.
I tell you what, I thought for sure that because I seen that I'm sorry, Todd, I took over. I saw this piece that first night, and I really thought it would sell that night. It's
really spectacular.
I can vouch that Wes was standing in front of it for some time.
Okay, well, we might have to talk later, Greg.
All right.
So all these pieces, there's no titles. They're just numbered. Is that correct?
Some of them have.
There are a few titles.
Some have titles. Some have dates. Most have signatures in some fashion. The one that you're looking at there's a signature on it.
No date.
There's nothing on the back of this one. But this is something too where he picked up this frame. It's almost like a thrift shop or an auction kind of artifact that he may have picked up. Who knows? Maybe it was in maybe he's just in the alley or something someplace, but he used this to paint. So the pink that you see along that, the frame itself, like he painted that on, and that kind of brown color then too, which is kind of like a mat board insert around a wooden frame. And then there's the piece kind of inside that he also painted. And there you can see brush strokes that go in between what would be considered the middle part, which is generally the artwork. But he's done the painting to the edge, and then he's done the painting onto like what might be considered the mat board. And then he signed there, and then it just kind of, some of that paint was hitting the frame a little bit. It really has this wonderful nuance to how he just approached things, and really fun. It's a fun piece.
Yeah. So for people that are listening, and we'll make sure we get this one up on our Instagram, but this is Bode number 9, acrylic on canvas, 22 inches by 18. Really beautiful piece that you can find on the gallery website. Let me pull up another piece here. This one is actually sold, but I think this is a really beautiful piece as well.
Oh yeah.
Bode number 56. This looks it's a portrait of a woman, kind of abstract, acrylic on canvas. It's a larger piece, 30 inches high by 15 wide. Just stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's really fun. It has a lot of energy to it because of the way he uses he has this kind of illustrative quality to the face. And it's just, if you were to look really close up to it, those eyes are just dimensional because there's so much color into it and so many dabs of paint in there. And he puts so much effort into that. And then he goes over it with these wisps of white. And he's creating all this motion in the piece. And he's done that throughout a lot of the work. A lot of pieces, but not all the pieces. I mean, he has these little moments where he's doing segments of work, and you can kind of tell he's trying different things in different time periods. And that's what this kind of represents.
So Todd, Tonette's favorite right there. I shit you not, because it was it's in between these two alcoves, and Tonette sat there and looked at it and walked around and came back to it. And she said, "This is my favorite piece of the whole show." Yeah.
Interesting.
I thought that was cool. I had to look at my phone to make sure it was the right one, but yeah, that's Tonette's favorite. So
the use of drips in this spiraling white swirls on top of the figure is kind of different in this piece. Usually he'll do the drip work spiraling underneath and then paint his figures on top. And then we have that one painting, it's two distinct paintings that are just drip, very Pollock style paintings. But this one is kind of unique in that he did the drip over the top. He had done it on other ones.
I love that piece. Did you have a piece that you wanted to talk about?
Bode number 17. That's a really cool piece.
This is a big canvas, 62 by 46.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. He started with this. If you look at this, I mean, you have to kind of stand up in close proximity to it, but he did this kind of brushstroke background first onto the canvas. So there's paint behind all these Pollock dripping action that you see there. So I'm talking about the background behind the Pollock. And then there's kind of the Pollock drip that's happening on top. And then he takes the liberty to do this geometric structure, which, Jay and I have seen this repeatedly, where he's speaking in a sculptural sense with these elements. And it's just really fascinating. There's a few pieces in the collection like this. And Jay and I just both are absolutely in love with them all. They're just so much fun. And this was, you can see by the edges of the painting that it was stapled to the walls in his basement. And that's how we found it. So we didn't staple it all the way around like he did, but I mean, it still has that kind of stretch feel of like he was just finishing it, kind of thing. It's a lot of fun to see. It's there's a few other pieces like that, and we also found a large kind of 2-panel piece that just has kind of the background, and then the kind of Pollock action to it, but then that's it. He hadn't done anything on top of that other than a white band that went right down the center of it to maybe make a statement that way. We're not quite sure. It's kind of a piece that feels somewhat unfinished. It's not signed like this one is. So
Yeah, this has his initials, and it looks like a brand, basically.
There's a painting just like that brand, and he signed 3 pieces like this. There's several different signatures that he used, but this RB is in another painting. What I like about this piece is you'll notice the pink and the purple in the sculptural element of the painting, which is totally incongruent with the palette of the swirls, the red and the white and the black. For some reason, this guy can pull it off. I don't know why it works. Those 2 non-incongruent looking palettes, but it brings depth to the painting to me. Like Greg was saying, there's under the Pollock kind of palette look are brushes, then the drips, and then this structural element. And it's a deep piece and brings together a lot of things.
It's a stunning piece, and I can see why it sold. It's really spectacular. Hello, it's Todd Pearson. Happy fall to everyone. Wes and I want to acknowledge our media sponsor, New Magazine. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on their Instagrams. The national edition can be found at new_magazine and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. Look to New for compelling stories from the world of art and fashion. And we want to mention 2 New Denver Magazine events coming up November 12th and 13th. November 12th is the New Denver Pret-a-Porter Fashion Show, and November 13th is the New Denver Sustainable Fashion Show. Both shows take place at 1899 Wynkoop Street here in Denver. For tickets, go to New Denver's Instagram and click on the Eventbrite link in their bio. Hope to see you there, and thanks for listening.
I'm Greg.
I'm Jay, and you're listening to the Tenant Podcast.
I'm going to pull up some sculpture here real quick, too. This is a really beautiful piece. I didn't notice it right off. This is Bode SC19 bronze. Did he do a lot of bronze work?
These are the only 3 bronzes, and they're all identical. He did 3 castings of the same mold, and it's not signed, but we know for sure it's a Bode piece just in the hood of the woman holding the fish. It's very distinctively Bode. So we see his style coming through his fingers in the mold. So this is the only casting piece, and there are 3 identical ones.
And so have any of those sold yet, or are they still all 3 available?
None have sold yet.
And these are 10 inches high by 6 inches wide. Yeah. Wow. It gives me the chills just looking at it. It's amazing. Gives me goosebumps.
He really went from doing sculpture later. Like when he got to South Dakota, it was really clear that his interests started to turn into these large paintings, and they were quite large in the basement. And then he went from there to doing more with sculpture. And it's fun to see. We have examples in some photographs of sculpture not being finished in the background of like a portrait type photograph of Renee, where you can see the sculpture is not finished, and that was 2017. So we know that he was doing sculpture into the later years here, and that's what's also fun is that he spent so much time in the sketching department and in the painting department, and even all these paintings of what looked like sculptures. And then he's actually stepping out and then doing the sculptures as sculptures, I guess, so.
I'm really curious about these 3 bronzes too. We had a foundry here in the Black Hills for a while, but it's no longer in operation. And the nearest foundry where most of the area artists cast bronze is down in Loveland. And I would really like to track down where this was cast. So I agree. I think they're really beautiful.
That would be, man, Jay, that would be really interesting to track down where this was cast. I agree.
Yeah, it would be easy because I could take the bronze down and, just go. There's only, there's 3 or 4 foundries down in Loveland areas. I think that would be the most likely. What do you think, Greg? I don't think he cast before in Idaho. Do you think?
It could have been when Hill City had a foundry, and they closed a few years back. So there's a chance that he had something he wanted to have, cast in replicant and give a try and take it to a foundry and see if they can. The whole thing is just cast as one piece. It's not like he had to do any work beyond that. So we could talk to Grant. Possibly would know.
We know Grant, he had Kristen, who's doing the writing for us. She and Grant were married and they tried a foundry here for 12 years. It went pretty good, but there just weren't enough local artists to support the business.
So these pieces that we've just talked about, they range in price from a little under $700 up to a little over $3,000. What is the actual price range between that we're looking at for people that are interested in checking out your website? And you guys are updating that pretty frequently as far as what's available?
Well, like Jay had said, we came out of that season of being opened all the way through September. And then in October, we decided to get this show going. So we tore down for a week and we got there was just so much work to get the Bode show up. We kind of put on the back burner, taking care of getting the online presence really met where it should have been. So I'm still working on that. We still have pieces to put up. There's a lot to put up. I'm hoping that by the time your listeners are hearing this podcast, we should have most everything up. And what we're hoping to do is we're putting it all on our shopping cart on the gallery613.com website. I'd like to have that on the same items on the RodneyBode.com website, because I really want that to kind of stand alone and have Rodney's work kind of all inclusive right there, but still have the shopping cart available. So that's a little bit of a challenge to make sure that we can get that to happen. So, but that's the ultimate. We want to have that for sure by the end of November. So,
and it's a lot of work to do all that.
Yeah.
One thing, we are going to raise prices on the 20th. So if you are considering, Wes, one of the pieces, let us know. We'll keep the price for you as it is now, but we're going to substantially increase it because we think the value is more than what you're seeing now on the pricing.
I hear you.
What's so funny is
I hear you clucking, big chicken.
What's so funny is Todd, when I went to the Bit Factory, there was a piece I was really interested in, and Bill let me know that Todd had put dibs on that to get approval from his wife. And so I, being the good friend I am, I didn't undercut him and try to. And I don't think Bill would have sold it to me anyway. But I did find something that's very complimentary of that piece. They would be sister pieces, and then of course this piece. And we do this all the time. We're like, oh my God, I was just going to talk about that piece. So yeah, I love it. I'll definitely be in touch with you guys because there's a couple pieces.
Christmas is coming up.
Right.
So don't be thinking of yourselves here.
Oh wait, no.
You could be thinking of each other.
It's going to be what's Wes want for Christmas.
And he does have a birthday at the end of the month.
That's right.
So.
A big one.
Oh, it's a double whammy.
I do. I turned 60. Don't tell nobody though.
You do? What day?
The 28th.
Oh, my mom's birthday was the 30th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, end of November. She hated hunting season, and Dad would always forget her birthday. Huge fights in our family over hunting.
Oh, shoot.
November's a horrible month.
It is.
Yeah.
So every now and then my birthday falls on Thanksgiving, and then it's just like a double win for me because I love food. That's obvious to people that have seen me. So anyway, so Todd, my birthday's coming up. I don't know, maybe a Bode would be nice.
A pink
Who
one.
knows?
The Bode, that name itself is cool.
I
Right?
love it.
I love that
Yeah.
name.
And then that little,
Somebody should name a dog after that.
yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
How's the little devil doing? Is he doing good tonight?
I don't call him little devil. I call him little fucker. He rarely gets called Bode. Oh, during this, he ate my hearing aid.
Oh my God.
It wasn't working anyway, but
I saw you hold that up in your hand. I was like, what is that?
yeah, my hearing aid.
Oh,
He
geez.
got it out of the briefcase. Oh shit, he is constantly. Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
really like the dog though.
Yeah, he's a cutie.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Well, gentlemen, is there anything else that you want to talk about, promote, mention that we haven't touched this evening?
I kind of touched on this earlier, and I just briefly will say one thing is Bode has really influenced me as an artist. One of the first things I did this summer is I went and bought a couple of the big, I call them Masonite. Greg has another name for them. Those 4x8 things, and I'm working on a piece that large. And he's given me permission just to throw away the rules and not worry about what people are going to think, or if I want to hang it in the gallery, I'm backing off that thought and making a piece that's very different from what I've done before. And so he's been inspiring to me individually as an artist.
Yeah, I think that's the other side too, is that as an artist, we both kind of were realizing that this guy just didn't hold back. He just did what he felt like would be the right thing to do. And I think sometimes a lot of us artists, I mean, I know I fall into this where it's like, like this portrait's not good enough. The eyes are all wonky, or I'm not doing it as perfect as I could. And I spend a lot of time trying to get the painting done in a perfection sort of way. And instead you see Bode's work and you're like, man, it just needed two eyes that were expressive, and he did it. And you can see that in all these different pieces, and you're just like, wow, we need to just really back off on how critical maybe, especially I am, I guess, of my own work, and just like loosen up and just take some risks. Cause this guy that's all he did. It's just kind of fun to see. So
His eyes are so beautiful. That's what, now looking for 2 weeks at the paintings all over the gallery, is he really does beautiful eyes, real emotional, sad. A lot of the eyes are sad.
we hope everybody gets a chance to take a look at it. We'll have everything up on the website, and it'll be really fun for people to see, I think, nationwide. And if anybody happens to be in Rapid City or the Black Hills, stop by. We'll have this stuff available to look at least until February. Then we'll see what happens. But
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm excited to come do a trip to South Dakota now that to see this work and check out your gallery. So hopefully I can make that happen soon.
I know the drive well. I can do it blind. Right, Wes?
I've done it many times myself,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to say I'm looking forward to talking to you guys further, maybe as February rolls around and you're getting ready to do, that outsider art in New York City. We definitely want you both on individually to talk about what you guys do as artists. And so we're excited to continue this conversation with you.
well, thanks a lot, Wes. I appreciate you helping us out with this and getting the word out. And it just means a lot that you were able to put us on this podcast. And it's been an adventure, man. Complete adventure.
Wes, I think it's really cool that you connected us. And it's part of this South Dakota thing that we're all kind of connecting over this collection. So yeah, both of you, we really appreciate it, and thanks for getting the word out for us.
Absolutely.
You bet. We're proud to.
I think you guys are doing something really, really incredible and important. And you're seeing it firsthand by engaging your community with art. And that's what art does. It connects us all, right? And so, kudos to you guys for having this vision of what a gallery could be and making it happen and showing something that probably wouldn't get shown in many other places in South Dakota. So good on you guys for making this all happen and doing it.
Thanks, Todd. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, this is important stuff. This is once in a lifetime kind of stuff that happens that you guys have been fortunate enough to be a part of, and that we've been fortunate enough to be a part of as well. So we're, once again, we're really happy that you guys came on the podcast, and we'll keep a close eye on what's going on and continue to talk to you. I appreciate it.
We did a mailing of 550 to local addresses, and it paid off. And the big collector was a mailing list guy that came in.
Here's the other thing, and this is going to ruffle some feathers maybe in Rapid, but I honestly thought that the Rapid City Arts Council was something that would be really helpful to like just art projects in general. You kind of think of it as like the council, the arts council that helps art things throughout the Black Hills. That's really cool. And then when you go, you walk up to them and you're like, hey, would we be able to use your mailing list? They're like, no, you can't use our mailing list. And we're like, oh, why not? We got this really cool thing that everybody that loves art would love to know about. And they're like, no, that's not how that works. And, it was really eye-opening for me to be like, an artist that I'm always about supporting the arts and arts organizations and stuff like that. But then I start to think like, what are art organizations really for? And that's the thing that has kind of gripped me in the last 2 weeks a little bit too. So then we had to take alternative action and getting a mailing list that was refined and, to maybe people that aren't even on that Rapid City Arts Council list. So I think that's also been beneficial to us too, is to, maybe it wouldn't have been successful if we would have gotten that list. Maybe because we stepped outside the box, it's helped us greatly. Maybe that the few collectors that have come in, I mean, there's been a handful that have come in, bought a few pieces, left. When they come back the next day, they buy a few more pieces, they leave again. And maybe if we wouldn't have reached out to those people, the show wouldn't have been a success. So I don't know. There's another discussion, I guess, but that was one thing that kind of came up, and I think we have some kind of cool tools that we've been using to kind of get the word out. And
I so agree. It's really shining a light on the art world for me too. Is during the COVID, so much of the money went to sustaining organizations and administration, and less of the money went to the actual artists. And right now, the round of COVID-related rehab art is all aimed at art organizations. And so the administrators are getting paid and the artists aren't. And I know that it does trickle down, and I don't want to be totally hard on art organizations because I want more of that in every community in America. But at the same time, it was a real eye opener for us in that respect.
Yeah. I think it warrants a conversation where, people like you and me get together and have a discussion about what's the role, and to be more supportive of the artists in the sense that that's their mission anyway.
Right.
Maybe we just need to make some noise.
Yeah. Yeah. Make them jealous.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. And
very much so. Thank you, guys.
I look forward to meeting you both in person someday in the future. And good luck with the rest of the show. Again, Rodney Bode, American Outsider Artist, is currently on display at Gallery 613 through November 20th of this year. You can get more information at the Gallery 613 website at gallery613.com. And you can find more info and see some of Rodney Bode's work at the website rodneybode.com. I will also have the link to the Randall Iverson short documentary on Rodney Bode in this week's episode notes. Take a moment and definitely check that out. And for the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.